Hey guys, it's Mitchell and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to start my first story time. Woo! So I'm going to be talking about today moving. So if you guys don't know me, which most of you do at this point, but for those who don't, I have moved 4 times in my life. So I was born in a little town in southern Illinois called Carbondale. And I don't really remember much of Carbondale. I was 5 when I moved, and so there aren't like a bunch of memories from that place. But from what I do remember, it was really fun. Carbondale's a really small town, so like it's not really, there's not really that much to do. But I do have like memories like driving up to Chicago and like watching the Cubs game. Like my family's a big like Cubs family. And from what all of my siblings have told me, they all really enjoyed Carbondale. And it being a very like small town was both like good and bad. So I obviously don't really have much experience since I was like 5, but from what I understand, it was pretty good. And so when I was 5 in 2005, we moved to Lincoln, Nebraska. And before you say anything, I really enjoyed Nebraska. I was there from ages 5 to 11. And so I did all of my elementary school from kindergarten to 5th grade in Nebraska. And I enjoyed it. I really did. It's about 150,000 people. So it's not super huge, but it's a lot bigger than Carbondale. And I don't know, I thought there was always something fun to do. You could go up to Nebraska, like Omaha, Nebraska, which is about an hour away. It's like the biggest city in Nebraska. And like there was, good food. We had this thing called Runza, which was so good. Like the best chicken fingers I have ever had in my life. Like they were amazing. But yeah, in Nebraska, I got into soccer. So I did soccer as a kid, me and my twin sister. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked the like kind of small towny feel. We had a nice house in like this little cul-de-sac neighborhood. I liked my school. I had some pretty good teachers, some kind of bad teachers as well, but that's expected. But yeah, I had a good time in Nebraska, and that's honestly where a lot of my like childhood memories stem from. So like we would go biking on like bike trails, and we would bounce on these like hay bales and like farmers' yards and stuff. One thing I do have to say about Nebraska, it is kind of boring. It is like a lot of like rural farm parts. But like luckily I lived in Lincoln, which was like a college town, with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, which is where 4 of my siblings went. And so I pretty much, when I was in Nebraska, my oldest sister Celie, she was in college at UNL, and all of my other sisters still lived with me because they were in middle school and high school. And so at that point we were all still together, and so like a lot of my like family memories and stuff stem from being in Nebraska and being in like the house with all of my like siblings. And then when I was 11, we moved again. We moved to Oregon, which honestly was my favorite place that I had lived up until that point. I only did 3 years in Oregon, so I did middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, in Eugene, which is where University of Oregon is located. And one thing I really do have to say about Oregon is it's beautiful. Oh my gosh, I loved it. Like some people really hate rain and hated the weather, but I enjoyed it. I loved it so much. And like the culture and the people in Oregon are just like so welcoming and like so just it was great. I really enjoyed middle school and my time in Oregon. One of the things that was really tough though was that when we moved to Oregon, 3 of my siblings left for college and stayed in Nebraska at University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And so we went from having 7 people in our house to having 3. So me, my twin sister, and my sister that's directly older than me. And so that was like a really tough kind of transition because I didn't get to see any of my other siblings like a lot. And so that was really hard for me to be so far away from them, and only see them on Christmas, Thanksgiving, and sometimes spring break. And so that was kind of tough. And also like switching from middle school or elementary school to middle school, that transition was like kind of weird because in middle school you actually like start to make friends, that you like. And so I had like a really hard time making friends in Oregon at first. And like I got like kind of bullied a little bit, just because like I'm a very sensitive person, and like I don't know, but so that was pretty tough. And like school at first, like in 6th grade, was really 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 hard because not only was like I away from most of my family, but I also didn't really have like a bunch of close friends. But it got better, obviously, in 7th grade, made more friends and whatever, and like I really started to enjoy it. And at that point my parents had told me like, we're not moving again, like this is it, like you'll be here till you graduate like high school. I was like, okay, cool, well then like I can make lasting relationships and like settle down and just be okay with not moving, because my parents knew how tough for all of my sisters who like moved with us going from Nebraska to Oregon was. It was really hard for a lot of us. And so in 8th grade, my mom told us that we were moving to Tucson, which like I already said in the last video, I love Tucson, Arizona. I call it my home now, but at the time that was like the worst news possible. I was so upset. I just remember being so mad at my mom because I was like, you promised that you wouldn't take us away from here. You promised, and now you're like going back on these promises. And like now that I'm an adult, like yeah, I get it. I see why, but at the time it felt like a betrayal, honestly, that like we had moved so much up to Oregon and now we're just doing it again, and it's like what's the point of like making friends and like getting used to a place if you're just going to leave in 3 years, and so in freshman year, I moved right before freshman year of high school, and started high school in Tucson, Arizona at Catalina Foothills, and I gotta say, did not like high school that much. I don't really know anyone who really loves high school, but high school was really tough. Again, I had like a lot of trouble making friends. I was bullied really badly, and like targeted by people, and I just really hated it. Like up until senior year, I really, really hated it. But luckily I met one of my best friends in high school. In my sophomore year, she had moved down to Tucson and went to my high school, and we met, and we just like hit it off instantly. And that's probably like one of the best things about high school was meeting her. But Tucson in general, I really love Tucson, and I said that in my last video that I think Tucson's one of the best places I've ever lived. I love living here. I love the University of Arizona, but like I hated it when I moved. I absolutely hated it. I was so unhappy, especially freshman year when I had no friends. Like I wasn't sure like what clubs I should get involved with. I was still like that weird kid who like moved from Oregon, like me and my sister. And like at that point, me and my twin sister, we did not like each other. We like weren't really talking or anything like that. And so like I didn't really have anyone. And my sister, who was right above me, she had just gone off to college. So once again, it was just me and my twin. And so that was really tough, like moving down here and like moving so often, because like even though I am really extroverted, it's really like hard like putting yourself out there to make like friends, and like friends that you actually like, because that's what I learned really quickly, both in Oregon and when I moved here, is that like, yeah, you can make friends and you can have relationships, but like it doesn't really mean anything unless you genuinely like enjoy the company, because for a long time I would just have friends so I wouldn't have to sit alone, you know, like at lunch and stuff. And like that's not really a good way to like live your life, you know, to be surrounded by people that you don't actually like enjoy. And then finally in about like junior, senior year, it got better. And I don't know, now I'm here. I'm very happy. I met a bunch of people in college that are just like the most amazing, greatest, awesome people ever. But yeah, it's been like a weird road moving up to that, because for a while it was like, oh, I'm gonna stay in Oregon, I'm gonna go to the University of Oregon, and that's it. And then we moved down here, and that was just like a whirlwind of like, wow, we found out in April and we moved down in July, you know, like it was just like very, very quick. But like all in all, I think moving really helped me be able to like develop social skills, to be able to like talk to people and like introduce myself and like go up to people and just be like, hey, I'm Mitchell, nice to meet you, you know? But yeah, like moving sucks, and like I'm pretty sure everyone who has moved, especially like moved state to state, like will agree with me that like it sucks at the time. But like looking back, like I had a great life. I loved my childhood. There was nothing like wrong with it other than like the little bits of moving in between. But like now looking back, like I'm glad I moved to Oregon. I'm glad I moved to Tucson. I fucking love Tucson. And like I guess just like everything works out. So that's my story. I guess it's kind of when the years, but that's a little overview of like my life, just a little bit, and like my experience with moving. And I guess like if anyone's watching this who like is going to have to do that, like yeah, it's not gonna be fun. Like I'm telling you straight up, it's not gonna be fun when it starts. But like in the end, you're gonna make friends and you're gonna get over it, and who knows, like you might learn to like love a place. Like I've learned to love Tucson. So just keep an open mind and it'll be fine. So I'll see you guys next week with another story time. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.